Hey, what's up? Bob DeBoo here for Open Studio. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to talk about playing in 3/4 time, waltz, whatever you want to call it. It's a little different than playing in 4. And I've had a fair amount of questions and requests to make a video talking about playing in 3, so I thought we'd do that this week. So what we have on our plate for today is I've got a good YouTube playlist, a listening list to check out some good recordings of playing in 3. That's the best way to get the music in your ear and to understand what's typically done in playing in 3 from a bass perspective. So check this out. It's the list has a lot of great standards that are in 3. Just to go down really quick, tunes like Up Jump Spring, which we'll look at a little bit later in this video. Jimmy Merritt's bass playing on Up Jump Spring, Alice in Wonderland, Someday My Prince Will Come, Waltz for Debbie, very early, all tunes that Bill Evans covered masterfully. Another great jazz composer that did a lot of stuff in 3 is Wayne Shorter. Wayne Shorter wrote Juju, Wildflower, 502 Blues, Night Dreamer, Miyako. A lot of great tunes in 3 by Wayne. Other classics that are in this list: Black Narcissus by Joe Henderson, Windows by Chick Corea, which we will dig into. We're going to check out some transcriptions of Dave Holland and Christian McBride, both playing on Windows, so stay tuned for that. Other tunes like Bluesette by Toots Thielenman, Emily, Jitterbug Waltz by Fats Waller, Valse Hot by Sonny Rollins, Ugly Beauty by Monk, Used to Could by the great Christian McBride, and Max Roach has a whole album about playing in 3/4 time. It's called Jazz in 3/4 time, and it's fantastic. So click the link there to get the YouTube playlist and get to listening. So, as I was saying, I've gotten a fair amount of questions about playing in 3, and one of the first ones that come up is kind of odd, and I actually remember hearing this too when I was a student from one of my instructors that I really looked up to and admired, great piano player, who kind of passively mentioned one time at one point, don't walk in 3. Don't walk. Play either 1 or broken or some variation thereof, but don't walk. And I really don't understand. I need to go back and find that person and ask where that was coming from. It is totally okay to walk in 3. Maybe not all the time, right? Because it has, just like if we were playing in 4, it has a different feel than playing in a 2 feel. So, but it is totally fine to walk in 3. There's many great recordings in this YouTube playlist where you can hear the bass player walking in 3, and that's a totally acceptable thing to do. That being said, we want to think about when we're doing it and how it's moving the music forward, if it's elevating the music, or if it's appropriate for the moment. As in anything with this music, it's situational. We're responding and we're speaking at the same time as we're listening, right? So, is it okay to walk in 3? Absolutely. Next question, how do we interact with the drummer? So, first of all, we want to think about how the drummer is subdividing, thinking about if the tempo is like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. If you hear the hat doing that, where it's snapping on 2, that implies to me like a 1 feel. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But if you hear something like this, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3 in the hat, then that maybe is implying something different, right? Maybe a little bit more active. All that to say is that we can think about playing in 3 really common ways. And there's multitude ways to do this, right? But just 3 really common basic ways to think about it is in a 1 feel. And we'll get into this a little later in the video too, but thinking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Another way is to think about breaking it up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, da da dum da dum ba da. And we'll get into some of that, especially when we're looking at Dave Holland and Christian McBride's transcription examples for today. And then finally, playing in a 3 feel, or walking, right? That's what I mean to say. So walking, totally walk in 3. A lot of times we're still following the same rules as if we were in 4. We want to hit chord tones, often on beat 1. Most often the roots, but it's not necessarily all the time, of course. And then beat 3 is really, we're thinking about how that's propelling, if the chord is changing, how we're moving into the next chord, or if it's rhythmically, a good idea to add some more flavor in there. And that brings me to the next point I want to talk about before we start looking at these transcriptions, is that if we're playing in a broken feel or in a 1 feel or something like that, there's a lot that we can do rhythmically in 3. And that's what I really wanted to focus on today, is fulfilling the role, of course, of a bass player, but then also how do we dance around the time in 3? Okay, so let's check out some of our transcriptions. And this is meant to inspire some listening too, so please go check out these recordings. If you'd like a PDF with these transcriptions on them, just click the link downstairs down here, and that's totally free and available. If you're into this too, consider subscribing to Open Studio's YouTube channel and definitely click like. And I love reading all the comments, so if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or any other points that I don't bring up in this video, please feel free to add them in the comment section. That being said, let's look at how Jimmy Merritt's playing on the first 8 measures of Up Jump Spring on this great Art Blakey recording, 3 Blind Mice. Okay, to me, this isn't a swing feel, a swing 3, which I think I talked about a little bit earlier, where we were talking about you can play in 3 just as if we were playing in 4. You can swing, or you can play a little straighter. This one we're thinking about swinging it, so really more triplet based, and we'll see some of that in the bass line. So try this with me. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and it would go on to D minor there. So as we're looking at this, there's a lot of emphasis on 1. So to me, this is like playing in a 1 feel in 3/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. But then there's some dancing in there, right? And that's part of the element that I wanted to get into and practice a little bit today. So what do we see? We see Jimmy playing 2, 3, a skip into beat 1 of the next measure, a skip being like an 8th note, 3 and 1, 2, and then doing the same thing on the second measure there. So very crucial, but he's thinking about, it sounds like he's really trying to lay the foundation down. And he does a lot of this throughout the rest of the tune too. So, and here's some triplets. When we look at windows a little further on, triplets wouldn't be quite as, you could definitely play a triplet, but if we're looking at windows like in a straight feel or a little straighter, type of feel other than swinging, and the tempo is a big factor in this too. If we think about playing something like Very Early or a ballad or like Ugly Beauty, Monk's Ugly Beauty, that we wouldn't play that kind of in the same way as we would play like something faster like Windows. So tempo is very, a crucial factor inside of what we're playing in this too. But, this Jimmy Merritt bass line has a fair amount of swing involved in it, especially in the triplets that we see in measure 3, and then also in measure 6, right? Those little triplet skips. So the rhythm of it is very important. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1. And that's another rhythm right there, that 3, 1. Really helps propel the bass line moving forward. We hear that tempo moving. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And we'll study some more of that and put that over. Someday my prints will come later in the video, so stay tuned for that. That's just a taste of Jimmy Merritt playing on Up Jump Spring, right? Go listen to that recording, listen along a bunch to it, and you'll get a lot of insight on how to play in 3. A different style entirely is to play something like Chick Corea's Windows. Windows was first debuted, I guess, on Now He Sings, Now He Sobs, the incredible record by Chick Corea with Miroslav Vitus and Roy Haynes on drums. Incredible trio record. If you don't already know it, check it out immediately after this video, that is. But Windows is another standard that's going to come up. It gets played a bunch because it's just such a beautiful tune. And I'm a big fan of Dave Holland, and there's a great recording that I referenced to called Like Minds from 1998 with Gary Burton, Chick Corea, Pat Metheny, and Roy Haynes, as I was saying. So I'm going to cut on a drum loop here, and it's in reference to the great Roy Haynes playing on that classic recording of Windows. But we're going to play this transcription of Dave Holland along with this. So here is the drum loop. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you can hear that's a little straight. There's still some triplets in there. We're going to straighten it up a bit. So here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So just 8 bars at a time, right? Let's play this bass line again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what do we see? It's definitely different than the way that Jimmy Merritt was playing on Up Jump Spring, right? And it's a little bit more active. It's not leading towards 1 all of the time. You can see that in the first 2 measures. It's more like he's thinking about 6 over this, perhaps, just the way that he's phrasing this bass line. But it's very rhythmic, it's very dancing, right? And of course it's in time, it's in the groove, and he's playing all the notes that fit really well inside of the chord, right? That outline the chord. So just a beautiful example of some different rhythms that we can play to stay open and play in more like a broken feel. Let's check out another 8-bar section of the same tune, of the same recording, that is, where he's playing over the bar line. Okay, so I'll play the example and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I know it goes by really quick, but what we're hearing inside of that, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and 2, and 3, 1, and 2, 3, So he's not always hitting beat 1 in each of these measures, right? It's a little bit more open, and we'll see Christian McBride take that even further in another transcription excerpt a little bit later. But how this is open, it's got that just really dancing and playful type of feeling. So it's definitely something we can utilize into our bass lines in 3. Let me try this one more time. We can listen to it again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it's heading to like an A flat right there. Let's next check out Christian McBride playing on the same tune. Different record though, but still with Chick Corea with Steve Gadd, and this is an album called Super Trio, and it's super. You couldn't ask for a better group, right? So love this record, and this particular recording is just so beautiful. A lot of playful interaction, and just masterful playing. So let's check out how Christian McBride played over just a section of the same 8 bars. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Again, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And he's moving on to an F sharp there. So what do we hear here? Even more dancing, 8th notes, right? Straightening them up, just playful interaction, and really in context. You wanna hear this in context because it's beautiful how he's interacting with Chick and with Steve Gadd, of course, and but it just gives us some more options to check out in playing in 3. Let's look at another 8 measures of Christian playing where he's using a lot of space. Now. This is over the E major 7 sharp 11 chord that we were looking at earlier with Dave Holland, where he was playing over the bar line, except Christian is leaving a lot more space, and you need to hear the recording of this. I'm not going to play it in this video because I don't want the audio, the copyright folks getting involved or pulling the audio from this video. So please go check it out. Again, this is from the Super Trio album with Chick Corea, Steve Gadd, and Christian McBride. Just masterful album. But let's check this out real quick. So I'm going to use the same loop. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right, so a great example of using some space to incite some excitement. Do you know what I mean? Leaving that space, the listener and the other players are like, okay, what's happening? Is he laying out? We're causing some dramatic effect by not always playing. So we don't always need to play in order for our bass lines to be interesting. Let's check this out one more time. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So, and that's a really cool idea of using the motif of the eighth notes and shifting them over a little bit to cause some excitement too, right? So next up, we'll look at playing over the first 4 bars and then 8 bars of Someday My Prince Will Come, utilizing very specific rhythms to practice, and you can get started practicing with this right away. Okay, so let's get into some of our rhythmic divisions of 3. These are just for practicing. You don't want to do these rhythms all the way through the whole song or even through a whole form. It would get really repetitive to do that. We want to isolate these rhythms, practice them, and then learn how to mix and match them so that we can dance with our bass lines in 3. We're going to start off by using the first section, which is thinking about playing in a 1 feel. So our emphasis is on beat 1 of each of these measures. Let's try that over the first 4 bars of Someday My Prince Will Come. I've got my metronome going here. I'm going to put it at 50 beats per minute and call that beat 1. So we're going to try to line up right with this. Here we go. So we hear 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right? So very simplistic, but it's so important to be able to hit that on beat 1 and keep these long notes going. So make sure you're really sustaining them. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Great, let's do that through the first 8 measures of Someday My Prince Will Come now. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, you can change up the octave. And you can even change up, if you want to change up the chord tones. So a way to do that would be play the 3rd of G7 instead, C minor, 3rd of G7. You could do a lot of different options, so play around with that. Let's look at the next variation. We're still thinking in a 1, but we're going to add in beat 3 into our bass line to help propel it rhythmically. So here's the example that I've written for that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And so the note choices that I'm making, a lot of times they're inside of the chord of the moment, or 5-1, or chromatic leading. That's something you're going to have to play around with, transcribe, listen a bunch to, get ideas of that. So now I'll play an example of playing the first 8 measures of Someday My Prince Will Come with this 1 and beat 3 type of feel. Again, this is still open, thinking of 1 feel. So here we go. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right, so that little 3 helps propel it forward. Let's add on to that immediately. So we can still think 1 and 3, but let's add in an 8th note on the and of 2. So the rhythm is going to be like this. 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1. But our emphasis is still here. So here's the example. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right? And so if you did that the whole time, the drummer would probably get upset with you pretty quickly to do that all the time. But we want to be able to isolate that type of rhythm and put that in our bass lines and be fluid with it, right? So now I'm going to play the first 8 bars of Someday My Prince Will Come with this rhythm in mind. And I'm going to try to do it for every bar without varying too much. We'll work on varying them later, okay? So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So keep shedding on that, keep moving on top of that. How can you make that feel? If we were going to dance around with those 3 different examples, it might sound something like this. So one other way that we can think about playing kind of in an open feel like this is to move our rhythm over and do something like this. So it's going to sound a little off kilter the way we're doing this, but it can be utilized effectively. So something like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we're playing 1, 2, 1, 2. So put that into your chord changes now too. Another way to think about it in a one feel, adding just some slightly different variations, is to play beat 1 and then the and of 3. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Something like that, right? And again, if you do that all the time, it's probably going to feel kind of funky. So you want to play around with that, right? All right, next up is looking at 2/3. Okay, so we're going to play dotted quarter notes and see how that feels. Here's the example of that. 1, 2, 3. So our rhythm is this. 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. So it's like 2/3, right? 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's almost like we're in 4, right? Because it's got that 2/3 type of feel. Another variation on this 2/3 is to think 4/3. So we could take that 2 a step further and play something like this. Hitting 4 in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So like. Right? And so this is, again, not something to utilize all of the time. It's like you're modulating into another time feel. Not like, you basically are. You're putting 4/3. So it can sound kind of deceptive, which can be a good thing, right? Let's talk about walking now. So walking in 3, again, it's something that is totally fine to do. But some of the same suggestions, not rules per se, but suggestions of outlining the changes. It's a great idea to do. You don't want to just play any random old notes playing in 3. We're trying to think about hitting the roots most often on beat 1. Again, not a hard and fast rule, but that's the idea. But you can play around with that, and you'll see that in this example here. Beat 3, though, is meant to kind of push us towards the next chord if we're changing harmony. So we can see that in this first example here. Here's the walking example. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So there's nothing wrong with that. It feels good. It feels like a waltz, right? And there I am on the 3rd and the 4th bars, hitting the 3rd of each of those chords. I try to make it fluid. We want these lines to still be linear, not a lot of big jumps and skips. Sometimes it makes sense to, and it's all situational, right? But here's maybe an example playing over the first 4 bars of Someday My Prince Will Come with the walking 3 feel. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right, so everything's moving forward, still hitting the chord changes on beat 1, whether it's the root, the 3rd, the 5th, something else if it makes sense to. Totally fine to do that. Okay, so there's another rhythm that comes up a fair amount actually in this Christian McBride and Dave Holland transcription, and it's based around maybe trying to think of that 2/3 feel, but it's still got elements of 1. So here's the rhythm. It's like 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and So what does that sound like? Da, 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 spang-a-lang, walk the dog, right? So that rhythm does come up a fair amount too. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now again, just doing this same rhythm the whole time is going to get stale super quick. So you want to be able to bounce around so you can practice playing on a 1 feel. And changing it. Doing stuff like that where you're bouncing around these different rhythms, but practice these rhythms and be aware of them first and foremost. So again, Playing in 3, very similar to playing in 4, with some key differences, and a lot of that has to do with rhythm and the dance that we're dealing with. If we're walking in a straight ahead tune in 4, yeah, we have skips and we have drops and we have things like that we do. If we're in 3, same rules apply. If we were walking in 3, you could still add eighth notes. You can add other things where you drop out beats, where you play over bar lines, and there's just so much out there to listen to get inspired by for playing in 3. So hopefully this helps to instigate some good listening, some practicing, and some more playing in 3/4. And hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much. If you like this, please click like. If you want to subscribe to Open Studio, go ahead and do that now. It's a great idea. Until the next time, happy practicing. My name is Bob DeBoo. Peace.